Hi everybody, welcome to the Limit Breakdown. I'm your host Sid.
And I'm Migs.
And today we're going to be reviewing the new Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever. Our too long didn't watch review is 4 hearts. That means it's a pretty entertaining movie. If you want to check it out in theaters, you can. But it's definitely going to hit Disney Plus some point or another. But stick around after our intro for our deep dive review of Black Panther 2.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Limit Breakdown, where we break down the latest in movies, TV, and everything going on in entertainment. Today we're going to be reviewing Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. So as we stated in the little previous intro part, we're giving this movie 4 hearts out of 5. So let's start with your general thoughts, Sid.
I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was enjoyable, but it didn't seem up to the Marvel hype that it usually is. And I think that's, I don't know, it might be the only one on this one. But it was definitely an enjoyable movie. I would definitely watch it again, but it did not have the hype that normal Marvel movies have. Mm-hmm. And I was a little disappointed on that end. We'll get to the nitty-gritty of it later, but overall it was still entertaining. Villain, I actually really liked the villain. Namor, they introduced Namor, and obviously they changed his origins from the original comics to fit the silver screen, which is perfectly fine. I love the actor. Namor was really good. The protagonist of Shuri was an interesting take of how they did it, and like her struggle with basically in the movie her brother being gone. Right. So due to the death of Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, they had to write him out, and I think they did that part very beautifully. Beautifully. The opening scene of this movie, I think, was phenomenally done. Great opening scene. That theater had pin drop silence. Pin drop silence. Beautiful scene. There was a tear in my eye. I know other people were tearing up. That aspect of the movie was phenomenal. But overall, there was still a few nitty-gritty things that I did not like, but still an enjoyable watch. What do you think?
So, we both agreed to give it a 4. There were definitely some things that I disliked about the movie, but it was much more in the context of what this movie's role is as far as what it goes into the MCU. And I think a lot of people like yourselves, I guess expectations have been, and I think it goes back a little bit to the conversation that we had right after Doctor Strange, because this was a much more self-contained story.
Correct.
I think all of these movies post Spider-Man have been much more self-contained stories.
They're not really doing the connecting.
They are to a degree, but it's not the primary.
It's not very
focus.
Blatantly obvious.
And my chief complaint were that I felt like due to the emotional gravitas that this movie had, there were some things that were clearly added on there for the purpose of setting up some other projects. For example, the whole storyline with Ironheart could have been completely removed from the movie, and it really wouldn't have impacted the plot whatsoever.
100% agree.
And the same thing with Agent Ross.
Yeah.
I think his storyline could have been completely left out. The fact that LaFontaine was his ex-wife, like, that's unnecessarily convoluted. Although I'm not familiar if she is related to him in the comics or not, but but again, that was a whole storyline that really could have just been avoided. But when it comes to the core of the story, it's a little bit of art imitating life in this situation, because they obviously could have taken a very Marvel-esque, very dramatic approach to write T'Challa off. They could have had him assassinated. They could have, done a whole bunch of things. But no, they mimicked a little bit of what Chadwick Boseman was going through. He suffered internally with this disease, and then in the movie, T'Challa was suffering in silence from a mysterious disease. Shuri was trying to save him, was unable to, and then they had to deal with his untimely death.
Yeah.
And I think what made this movie resonate with me was particularly in the monologues, in the Queen's monologue when she was talking about losing her family and losing T'Challa. Like, she very well could have just been talking about Chadwick. Yeah. And like that emotion was like coming through. And there were a couple of other instances where Shuri, where M'Baku, where several other characters were talking about T'Challa, but like you could see in the emotion, like what they were saying was meant for Chadwick. Yeah. And so like you said, they handled his exit very, very gracefully, very, very carefully and lovingly. Yeah. Because if nothing else, this movie is a love letter to T'Challa. Yeah. Now, going into the actual transition to now, it's a love letter to T'Challa, and it's a exercise in watching somebody process grief. Mm-hmm. Through the lens of Shuri, we're shown the different stages of grief and the different facets that she had to undertake emotionally to be able to eventually take the mantle of Black Panther. And it was a very good parallel between her and Killmonger, and it was no surprise that she saw him in the ancestral plane instead of her family. And I like that very well done. And like I said, my nitpicks with the movie had more to do with them, setting up some other projects, and I really feel like for this particular movie, they could have left it more self-contained. And I know that it went against a lot of other people's expectations. There were the rumors that Dr. Doom was supposed to appear. There were rumors that maybe Reed Richards or just other things, setting up other bigger things. But I feel like with the emotional weight that this movie had to carry, I appreciated that they had it more focused on Wakanda, and they didn't use it as big of a launch pad as they could have.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree. I can see the points there. So I want to get to the nitty gritty of it, of like the good and the bad, right? So I'll say all the good things first. Like I said, I love Namor. So how they did Namor's origins, kind of gave him like a brief origin of his ancestors they lived on the land, and then once they were dying, they were given the ability to go into the water by these plant type things.
Yeah. Right? So from what I was able to piece together, I don't know if it happened at the same time or maybe at separate times, but much like in Wakanda, a meteor of vibranium hit somewhere close and impacted the surrounding areas. As a result of that meteor crash, there was a plant that was grown, and their version of the Panther goddess or whatever god that they were guided them to this plant. And so by them ingesting the plant, it allowed them to breathe underwater. Yep. Namor's mom, who at the time that she ingested the plant was pregnant with Namor, transformed into an underwater breather. But then when he was born, he was able to both breathe underwater and above land.
Yes. And he is a mutant.
He is a mutant.
They even said it in the movie. He's like a mutant of some sort. And I was like, no. But that was really cool. I did like how they made the transition of when they're in the water, their skin is normal, normal tone, but when they're out of water, their skin turns blue.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool how they did that transition
and I also love that when they went above water, they had the little mask with the water in it. And I was like, wow, that's super cool, because you never really see that whenever you have underwater species or anything like that coming up.
Just magically breathe, but they actually had that thing. I thought that part was amazing. The way that Namor's, how do I say, his plans and him being the antagonist, right, made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Except for one sentence which threw the whole thing off, but I'll get to that later.
Okay.
But Namor's reasoning made sense. So I think the one thing that I have seen consistently in a lot of Marvel movies is the antagonist, their reasoning for doing stuff makes sense. If you cannot... I think if you don't have a compelling villain, it doesn't make for a good movie. And I think this one definitely added that. Him being as strong as he was, his fight scenes were fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially the opening scene when they're taking off the ship.
Yeah.
Or they're taking on the ship and they're just having people jump off, and he goes in there and wrecks the helicopter.
Yeah.
Awesome scene. Awesome scene. Another good thing I liked.
Going back to Namor's origin for a little bit. So obviously, Namor and DC's Aquaman have very similar origins. One of the main reasons they changed Namor's origin was so as to not have to compete with Aquaman. And so I thought it was very, to quote you, very clever that they chose to make him more influenced by Mesoamerican culture. So that was really, really cool. They gave him so now instead of being from Atlantis, he's from Telocan.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's more influenced by Mayan and Aztec influences, and so I thought that was really cool. And then his chief gripe against the surface dwellers stem from the conquistadors and the slave traders.
Correct. When the first time he visited. And so, the name Namor obviously doesn't originate with this origin, but I love how they made it fit so perfectly because, in Spanish, the phrase "without love" is "sin amor." Yeah.
So he said, "My enemies call me
the child
el
niño
love. Sin amor."
Yeah.
The child without love. So the way that they were able to weave that, whoever thought of that, I'm like, mwah.
Very. As soon as I heard that, I turned around and I looked at her for French Sharita. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so clever.
Dude,
that writing on that part was really good.
Shout out to Sharita, who gave me my favorite moment of the movie because I almost choked on my Coke. Because Namor is coming out and I just hear somebody go, "Aqua Puppy." I about to spit out my Coke. Coincidentally, Sharita and Nicole have been trading thirst traps with Namor for Namor. So.
That's moving on.
Anyway.
So another thing that I liked in the movie that they did, first of all, the soundtrack, just like the first movie, soundtrack of this movie was great,
phenomenal.
A lot of Spanish songs in there, obviously. I've been actually listening to it. It's really good soundtrack. So just like the first movie, soundtrack not made it, but the first movie also had great soundtrack. This movie, awesome soundtrack with a Spanish influence on it, top notch. I liked Riri Williams, Ironheart. I liked her character.
Yeah,
I thought she was a great character in the movie. My only gripe with that was I wish they had either more. They had done more of her about being smart per se, without just saying, "Oh, she's smart."
Yeah.
Right, and so if you compare her character to Iron Man, at least in the first movie, there was a lot of scenes, and he's like, "Okay, this, and this, and this, combine this." and you're like, okay, dude, this dude is smart.
Yeah.
I think in this movie they just kind of blatantly just said it, and she
never... I don't necessarily agree with that, because they alluded to her putting together the vibranium detecting machine.
Correct.
And and that it was basically pieced together from scrap material that nobody else was able to deconstruct.
Correct.
And then when they got her to the warehouse where she had all of her equipment, like she had all these formulas, she had all of these designs, the Iron Man's prototype that she made and all that stuff. So like I thought it was pretty evident that she's...
Well, that's what I'm saying. So okay, so maybe I misspoke. So I'm not saying that they didn't. They said and showed that she was intelligent. I'm talking about the writing for the actress who played Riri Williams, right? At nowhere in the movie she herself did anything to say that, okay, she is really smart, instead of just blatantly saying it, right?
Gotcha.
So other people said that, oh, she's smart.
Yeah.
Oh, she has built all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But nowhere in the movie did she do anything to prove. I'm getting into the nitty-gritty.
No. I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I kind of get what you're saying.
Like, to prove that,
to have her solve a problem that nobody else could solve, or
correct,
something along those lines.
Like
okay,
that. So,
I can see that.
But her character, I love her quips. I thought those were very funny.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and she's like, no, I want to go home.
Yeah.
Things like that. I thought her quips were very good.
Another nitpick that I had was Okoye's entire story arc kind of bothered me. I wasn't a fan of how the Queen kind of dismissed her, although I kind of sort of understood a little bit. I didn't really think it was cool for them to be holding the whole Killmonger thing against her.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I did not like in the movie. So I love the Queen. I think she did. The actress did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Stupid good job. I think she did a great job of pulling that movie together. Even she had great. How do you say? Like, you could see the emotions.
Yeah. No.
Right?
No. She pathos.
Yes. However, when it came to Okoye in the whole thing, so this was my thing with Okoye, the whole movie. So she had the fight with the Atlantean at the beginning, where she lost, and that this was the first time that she's like, "Oh my God, somebody can stand up to me," right?
That was a really good fight too.
Great fight scene. I think probably that is probably my favorite fight scene of the whole movie. As the movie progresses, they lose Shuri, and she goes to the Queen. Queen's like, "I have sacrificed and whatever. You're no longer the thing," and I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Because she's not just a warrior, she's not just a bodyguard, she's your general.
Yeah, Okoye, I think, and this is me being very, very, very particular. Okoye has actually sacrificed for Wakanda.
Yeah.
Right? The Queen, and again, me being particular, putting this out there, the Queen says, I also have sacrificed. I lost my son and my daughter. Right? Technically, that's not a sacrifice. A sacrifice is something you give up. Yeah. It was taken from her.
Yeah.
Right? So those things were taken from her. That's not a sacrifice. And I'm like, she's like, well, I have all... No, you haven't. Okoye has actually put her life on the line.
Yeah.
Right?
And they also mentioned about her husband being in Wakandan jail for his involvement with Killmonger.
Correct. And she's like, I still serve Wakanda regardless. Yeah. That, to me, is a true sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a little extra. Now, literally, the next scene, the Queen sacrifices herself to save Riri.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, one of the benefits of monarchy is nobody gets to question.
Yeah. But speaking of Okoye, the one... so, as the movie progresses and the last fight scene happened, I don't think Okoye got her true revenge on her fight. Like, when you see a movie like this, you have a fight, the person loses, you're like, oh my God, she lost. You expect there to be a fight again, like a
round two
retribution.
I mean, but the MCU has done this to us before.
A redemp fight. And again, yes, they had a good fight and she was kicking ass, but there was no clear, like, now she has reclaimed herself.
I mean, I think they left that open. Obviously, things with the
Atlanteans.
Not Atlanteans, because they're not.
Oh yeah, they're not really in
Talakoans,
the
yeah.
Talakoans. Yes.
Talakoans or whatever.
As a story, yes, but
Yeah.
I'm saying just as her
Yeah.
story arc or just as her
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
No, there was no ending to that, and I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, again,
huge gripe on that one.
Listen, Thanos two-pieced the Hulk into a pacifist, so let's. Not everything gets.
We're not gonna get it.
Not everything gets a warm resolution.
We're not gonna do that one. Anyway, that was one of my biggest gripes of that movie, or she did not get a proper.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, again, it was one of those. I felt like that particular storyline, yeah, didn't make a whole lot of sense. They sidelined her really to put her back in, and I don't really see her ever really agreeing to put on the like pseudo Iron Man suit or whatever that they had, the blue suit.
Yeah, it looked kind of weird too. I'm not gonna lie, it looked like an Egyptian suit.
Yeah, so that is something from the comic books, but it was never a Okoye in that suit. So yeah, I don't know why they. Fair. And that's another one of those things. I believe that's supposed to be like a Disney Plus spinoff. So it's supposed to be with Okoye. So I'm not 100% sure, but again, didn't really add to the plot so much.
Yeah,
it wasn't really necessary. But kind of getting to a resolution overall. The beginning core of the movie, as they dealt with the aftermath of T'Challa's death, it was very impactful. And then the very end, when Shuri kind of has her moment where she dives deep and tries to figure out what she's going to embody, whether she's going to let her need for revenge consume her like it did Killmonger, or I love the scene where she's fighting Namor, and you get the image of the Queen saying, "Show her who you are." Yeah. And I love that she didn't physically overpower Namor, but she outsmarted him. Mm-hmm. They captured him. They basically started to pan fry him. And weakened him, right? And weakened him, and they were able to. But then at the same time, it also showed. I don't know how much of Namor's defeat was genuine, because it looked like everything kind of went according to how he wanted. Mm-hmm. Towards the end, his lieutenant was upset about him yielding to Shuri, and then he's basically stating, he's like, no, he's like, we married them to us now. Yeah. Like, when the outside world eventually comes to them, they're gonna come to us for help, and
yeah, I agree.
So it's very in line with Namor's character, and props to the actor. His name is Tenoch.
I do not know his name.
His first name is Tenoch. I can't remember his last name right now, but man, he did a bang up job. And I was with characters like Namor and a little
Huerta.
Yeah, Huerta. Yeah, I thought that's what it was. I wasn't 100% sure, but there are characters. There are two characters now that have recently come out that are typically anti-villains, that I've been pleasantly surprised. Both Black Adam and Namor, because both of them have this innate charisma to them that, obviously Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has got charisma for days, but with Tenoch being a relatively unknown property, the character and the swag that he was able to bring to Namor,
I really liked him. I thought he did a phenomenal job. He made sense the whole time, and he's like, "Look, my people, I think the world sucks, and I just want to watch them burn. Are you with me?" And I'm just like, who just says that casually?
All that aside, to the drip, bro.
Oh man,
the drip, like the jewelry, that headdress. That
I'm not gonna lie, I liked his earring. God. I kind of want to get his earring now.
I'm just kind of like, oh my god, that's supposed to be old school, but I don't know if I'm confident enough to show that much skin though.
Yeah, it was really cool. I kind of want that jewelry now.
I can't pull off the loincloth.
Minor details, but yeah. So I'm gonna talk about the main main person, who is Shuri.
Okay.
Shuri, to me, in the whole movie was kind of annoying. I understood her pain.
Yeah.
Right, so don't get me wrong. I understood her pain. I understood the whole time why she's doing what she's doing. It was still annoying. I was just like, okay, I mean, chill out. Her being the character that they had proposed, and they give you this idea of who she is.
Yeah.
In the previous movie.
Yeah.
And then they take that away and kind of change her personality. It kind of felt weird. In the first movie, she's very upbeat. She's very light. She's, making jokes and everything. Obviously, in this movie, because her brother is gone, it's a different feeling, and I totally understand. But she took a complete 180, which, again, I understand. I just didn't like.
Yeah.
The part of the movie where she, when she takes the flower thing, and then she becomes Black Panther, and she sees Killmonger, she's like, no. And it was that scene where the camera turns and you see Killmonger, and he's like, hey, cousin. And I was like, ooh. And then when she comes back and she's like, he's right.
Yeah.
Like, he's right,
Yeah.
So and she goes to M'Baku's land, who I love. M'Baku's one of my favorite characters.
You bald-headed demon.
Yeah. Oh I love M'Baku. He's a phenomenal character.
Yes.
M'Baku, and she's like, this is what's going to happen. And he's like, I will follow you. I don't condone what you're doing, but I will follow you.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's right. And I'm like, dang, Shuri, chill out. He's literally giving you advice and helping you. Why do you gotta be so cold?
Been the Black Panther.
Yes. I love M'Baku, man. The War Council, he came in eating a carrot, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, they're vegetarians.
Yeah.
We are vegetarians. Oh man.
Yeah, he did phenomenal. A little disappointed that it wasn't M'Baku as the Black Panther, although he would be completely OP with the Arab. Like he's already a beast.
Yeah. That was
giving him the powers of the Black Panther would be too much.
I think it'd be good. Final thoughts.
Wakanda Forever was not a perfect movie, but I think it was a good send off for Chadwick Boseman, a tribute to the memory and influence he had on the first movie and on the MCU in general. Overall, I loved it for that. I loved the emotional impact, and it had a very heavy load to carry. The movie did, and I think that it did it as gracefully as one could given the circumstances.
Yeah.
And as far as the plot and everything, I mean, it moves the wheel along in the course of the MCU, and that's kind of what we were expecting from it. But there was a version of this film that would have not been tasteful, and I'm glad that it didn't go in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did a great send off to Chadwick Boseman, and how they ended the Black Panther, like T'Challa in the movie. Overall, the movie is entertaining. I have a few gripes with it, but still, I don't think the gripes are enough to make it a bad movie for me. I almost gave it a 3.5, but I think re-looking at it, it was still an enjoyable movie, and especially the antagonist.
That introduction, that it's one of the best first appearances in the MCU. He came in, he made an impact, and it's obviously he's going to be a big player. Going forward. And then they also left it open to bring back a version of T'Challa with his son.
His son being T'Challa Jr.
Yeah. So TJ. But thanks a lot, everybody. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify. Check us out. Check out our other videos. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Appreciate it.